To call it a party would be generous. The tally of 9 attendees huddled inside my Brooklyn apartment that now, for the first time, seemed spacious. But she was one of them. A friend of a friend of a friend of a cousin of a friend of a coworker of my brother. A 7-leg parlay. Of course, she'd instantly formed a crush on my roommate, as people tended to, while I unfortunately drank and bit my nails. Be cool. Don't overthink it. Mantras that never suited me. By nightfall, we revelers would leave my raucous bash and migrate to the bar, where I did miraculously find myself wobbling off the bar stool beside her. Call it fate, game theory, or sweet Jehovah herself in the form of my roommate's current love interest in someone named Dasha, the fact remained, I had a girlfriend. There were notable discrepancies between the yin of her and the yang of me. Casey was the most organized, decisive, fashionable person in any room she walked into. I was not. Geographically, I hailed from the suburb of Maplewood, New Jersey, in a home built of therapy and nasal sprays. Conversely, Casey was raised in Mobile, Alabama, with 6 dogs and twice as many chickens, all of which I was allergic to. After 7 short years of sneezing, bowling, Bama wins and Jets losses, of nieces and nephews and a love that read left to right and right to left, I was ready to make the easiest change of my life. Easiest change. The words snickered at me as they stumbled out. In my childhood, my mom would lovingly muse that I had a little OCD, a less doctorly way of saying I was a neurotic, fear-stricken mushbag. Whether it was the exactitude of my sandwiches or general inaction unless the clock face displayed a time perfectly divisible by 3, I required external, at times spiritual validators to break routine, shore up my Play-Doh brain, and make change. Enter Casey, who was far better at lending conviction than dividing by 3. As director of operations at her clothing brand, she executed and pragmatized more before 9 a.m. than I generally did in a calendar year. With the overwhelming decisions accompanying a marriage proposal on my platter, I wondered if I might be in trouble. The good Jewish boy in me called my mother immediately, who gave excellent advice. Just do it. There's never a perfect time. For a second opinion, I called my older, happily married brother, whose advice was equally great. You don't want to rush these things. Questions geysered. Who should be there? Where do you hide a ring box in a 550 square foot apartment? I was malfunctioning. They could agree on simply this. Be cool. Don't overthink it. Weeks passed. I concocted, tweaked, trashed, rinsed, repeated. Eventually, we were moving. Boxes would be packed. Boxes would be found. It was decision time, and I tepidly stumbled upon a reassurance that she'd appreciate this change simply as one that I made. It couldn't be that bad. Well, keep listening. The sushi place I picked to set a mood was entirely unappetizing to my date, exacerbated by my unseemly sentimentality and a suggestion for a spontaneous walk in the park in the night's Antarctic conditions. Sub-freezing, topped with a modest drizzle. We stopped at home so she could grab her heavier jacket. The park's conversation would turn from torturous to non-existent, Casey admitting later that this is where she suspected either marriage proposal or murder. By the end of the quietest 3 blocks of our lives, I descended to my knee. and made her wait excruciatingly long while I wrestled the oversized ring box from my pocket, stuck, the romantic speech I'd practiced evaporating into the ether. Thankfully, I'd also forgotten photographers to eternalize the wet, tense silence. But I did ask, apparently, and despite a laugh, she agreed. Afterward, I arose and asked for her thoughts. She responded with a deliberation I know so well. It was very you.